Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Jack and Joe show. Not much else to say other than it's happened again. Me and Jack are both a little bit giddy. And Jack, how are you doing? I imagine very well.
Yes, very giddy actually.
Yeah,
You beat QPR and you think, oh, fantastic, we've got the bragging rights over them. Um, and then you look at all the other results and you go, oh, this is interesting. And can slightly sit back and enjoy the playoff race as opposed to, obviously, we're not involved in it. So I'm interested to see now how Luton could potentially put some pressure on Bournemouth. But we'll get into it. But yes, I'm very good away day on Saturday. Was it Saturday? Yeah, it was Saturday. Fantastic
yeah.
stuff.
I guess let's get straight into it and have a little look back at that QPR game. And first things first, team news comes out. We spoke about it the end
Mm,
of last week, and we were both aboard the Nico Williams to left back train,
mm.
put Tete in at right back. That's not what happened. We started Kearney as well. Bobby Reid kept his place ahead of Cabano. What did you make of the team when it came out? I mean, Joe Bryan, I suppose, was not the surprise inclusion, but
Mm.
maybe the player that has played the least amount of time this season. And as we said last week, when he's played any minute of football in the league this season, Fulham have not lost, and that continued again.
I suppose he's more of the natural selection in terms of
Yeah,
he's a natural left back as opposed to Nico Williams. Who, by the way, Nico Williams, this player is phenomenal. There was a moment in the first half, and because I was right by the front, got a really good view of just nuances of defensive play. And QPR had the ball, I think, going down their left. And there goes Nico Williams. He's in a tussle with, I can't remember who the player was, and he wins the ball just really cleanly. And he could have obviously fouled him, or could have easily let him come in and an opportunities there. But great defensive work from Nico Williams to get the ball clear, and he was a great outlet, especially for our goal. We'll come on to it. But in terms of Brian, I thought Brian was outstanding, considering he hasn't played too much football. He wasn't like, oh my god, he's in for Robinson for the rest of the season sort of level, but he just did a job and also nearly scored a fantastic goal in the first half, forced the first save from the keeper. And I thought Brian's performance was very mature, a couple of very important defensive headers, and yeah, just I think most of our play came down from the right because of Nico Williams, but when we did come down the left, Brian was very good, very well involved, and I was really impressed with Fulham's defensive performance because I was like, oh, Rodek hasn't had to make a save this whole game. It turns out he did. I just missed it because I went up too early for half time. It was right. It was right in added time. I seem
yeah.
to remember. But Joe, how did you watch the game? Obviously you weren't there, but did you enjoy it as much as we did?
I did as much as I could. My dad was there. He sent me a picture from the lower tier of the away
Mm,
end. I watched the game on my phone,
mm,
and loved it. You know, it was one of those where we said last week we had to bounce back. I'd have loved to have been there, but I had other commitments this weekend.
mm.
And it was just a great day. I'd have loved to have been there to seeing it's happened
Mm.
again. Um,
Again.
Again, yeah. I mean, our record there is actually phenomenal. I mean, I can remember losing there when Tarat scored twice in the Premier League in around
Mm.
2011, 2012, whenever that was. Um, Other than that, I haven't seen us lose there. Draw a
No.
couple of times. Those games we should have won. Um, Another just great day out and the perfect reaction from the Fulham players after that. Just a bit leggy, bit underpass spell just before the international break. And just on Joe Bryan, just before we go on to the first goal, I just want to add that he feels a bit like a safer option at left back at the moment in terms of defensively. He played against Cardiff, he played the full 90, clean sheet, had that side pretty much locked up throughout.
Mm.
He's maybe not offered as much going forward this season as I'd have liked when he does play. I've been a little bit disappointed with that aspect, but defensively, I would say when he's played, he's been better than Robinson has. So it's just about balancing that out and, who are we playing? What's your position? Robinson obviously had played really early on the Thursday morning, so that's why he wasn't involved. But I can see
Mm.
why he played Brian in a derby. I remember he played against QPR in the home fixture as well and was great until he got subbed off due to injury.
Mm.
So yeah, well done, Joe Bryan, and we'll find out and we'll come on to the Middlesbrough game in a minute. But Wouldn't surprise me if he kept his place, but I guess let's come on to
Yeah.
that shortly. The first goal, you touched on it a minute ago, Jack. Fantastic team goal. Wonderful movement. The ball over the top from Kenny initially dragged Sanderson out of position. Then Carvalho played it off to Wilson, to Kearney, through to Carvalho, and across to Mitrovic, who completely threw off Rob Dickey for the second time this season, which was fantastic. What did you make of it?
It was a really well worked goal, but it's one of those ones where you had a couple drinks, you don't realize how good the goal is until you've watched it back.
Yeah.
In the evening or the Sunday morning. But I just love the link up play. It's brilliant, and you're right. The Sanderson getting out of position and being dragged off by the ball is so key to this, because it allows the space for for Kenny to come in, and it's just really good teamwork. Fabio gets himself in a good position, and Mitrovic. You watch Mitrovic as soon as who puts the ball in? It's Fabio, isn't it? He puts the ball in the
Fabio,
box.
yeah.
As soon as Fabio gets the ball, he doesn't foul Dickey whatsoever. He just uses his strength to come across, because he knows that ball's getting straight across. And you can sort of tell from Dickey's reaction, he's like, I can't believe I've just let Mitrovic run across me like that in the 10th minute or whatever, 16th minute, and he scored. And it's such a brilliant goal. It could be one of the best goals we've scored all season in terms of the way in which we link up outside the box, and it's something that's really satisfying about it. And really, really pleased. Good limbs, of course. Pyro thrown on the pitch. I was thinking, this is great. This is a great derby. And all those QPR, because I was like behind the goal on the right, so I was nearest to those QPR fans. You look to your right, and they were giving it all that first 50 minutes. Oh, you're not that good. We're blah blah blah, and then obviously the goal shuts them up and humbles them a little bit. But I thought QPR didn't really have a sniff in the whole game, and I thought it was a really mature performance actually, considering what QPR have to play for. They need to get into the playoffs. They're aiming to get into the playoffs, and we completely shut them out completely. And Johansson played terribly. Yeah. And the fact we love Johansson. We sing his name like when he came over to take a corner, and then he got substituted and clapped up. I was thinking, if I was a QPR fan, I would be furious. And there were some tweets that made me laugh over the weekend, Joe. But Johansson, it was funny, just very funny.
Johansson's played both games this season as if it's his testimonial, which, I mean, it's if I was a QPR fan, I'm the same as you, I would be beside myself. I mean, it's the local derby. It's the biggest game of the season, let's face it, for both clubs in terms of not like maybe other than, if we could clinch promotion here or there or wherever, it's the big one that you look for before the season starts. And in both games, he's shown too much respect to Fulham. If you're a QPR fan, for us, it's great. And it's just even more sort of ammunition. Like you said, I was expecting more from QPR when we've played there before, even when we've won. I'm thinking back to the lockdown game when they scored in the first minute. I'm thinking back to the game we won 2-1 there when Ruby Font missed a penalty. The 1-1 draw where Chris Martin missed the penalty. I'm thinking back to all these games. They've always given as good as they've got in the first half and really sort of brought the game to us. The atmosphere's been quite up for it. It didn't feel that way on Saturday. It felt very flat. It felt like they were almost resigned to Fulham are better than us. And once we scored, I really felt like it was game, set, match because they offered nothing. And what really confused me was they started okay. Like they didn't, it wasn't, like a house on fire shot into the side netting. But it was almost like once we scored the goal, they showed us more respect and stepped off, didn't attack, and really was almost like limiting the damage to the end of the game. Then they would bring on Charlie Austin with 10 minutes to go, etc. And obviously, we'll come on to the penalty in a minute. That sort of stopped any... Mark Warburton called it momentum. I wouldn't call it momentum. We were on top. I would call it potential momentum because they just brought on another striker. If you're 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go, the game normally turns slightly. It never happened. There was never a threat. It was always going to be us scoring the next goal. And if I was a QPR fan, I'd be really annoyed about that.
It's so weird because when you go to like QPR away of the past or Brentford away, Griffin Park, when we played them down the years, you always had this sense that the atmosphere was building before the game. And I got into the ground probably about 20, 15 minutes before kickoff. And I did not even sense any potential atmosphere building, fans getting behind. Like, it was really bizarre. And I was like, hold on a second, it's 5-3. The team's about to come out. And there's just no noise from the QPR fans. And maybe that's because, I mean, I read a lot of tweets this Saturday morning. And it was like QPR fans saying, we're going to lose today. Let's just make a good account of ourselves. And you're right. I genuinely feel like it's a case of the QPR fans being resigned to the fact they were going to lose. And they just didn't, the QPR fans just couldn't be bothered to even try and turn up and make some sort of atmosphere. It was bizarre. And yeah, they had the chance of the side netting and that sort of got them riled up a little bit. But apart from that, like, we were 1-0 up for a long time in that game. I never at any stage thought they were going to score. They just weren't that dangerous. And maybe that's, Elias Chair being on the bench was interesting. I thought Charlie Austin was going to start. I didn't actually realise that Lyndon Dykes had just come back from injury after the international break. But Joe, I found that absolutely bizarre. And should we just talk about the penalty?
Let's talk about it.
It's not. Is it a penalty? I suppose it is, maybe.
I mean, it's a really weird one because... So first off, we spoke about Gavin Ward the other day, the referee, and he's obviously the referee, for those of you that don't know, that gave the Coventry penalty in that 4-1 game where it was a complete dive. I thought he got completely bullied by our players, actually, on Saturday. And from a Fulham perspective, that's great. I'm glad that for once we're not the nice guys. QPR were the nice guys on Saturday. We were the ones that were like, in his ear, and I think there's a way of doing that. I think sometimes some of our players cross the line slightly, and
Harrison
I
Reed.
would maybe and even Mitrovic actually. I think maybe they tone it down a little bit, but it's good to see that everyone's together. And I was glad to see it against this referee of all people. But that penalty, it's a weird one because linesman doesn't give it. It's right in front of him, and if that's given against us, I'm really angry. Because I think it's soft, but his arm was up there. So I'm torn on it. I think it's soft. I don't think it's a penalty, but at the same time, I think we've had some absolute clangers against us. And you always say, Jack, I think you're the biggest advocate from this. Things even themselves out. So when Middlesbrough get a penalty on Wednesday night, I'm going to come back to that. If it's
because I'm going back to the Coventry penalty that we conceded and going into the same referee. So what goes around comes around in terms of that. Yeah. Maybe it's gonna, a new circle is going to open up. Obviously, going forward for the Middlesbrough game because we got a soft decision. But
here's a question for you just on the penalty. If we're in the Premier League, let's say the referee gives it, VAR is obviously having a look at it. Do you think they ask him to even have a look and overturn it, or do you think they let it stand? Like, do you think that would have been a clear and obvious error? Because I don't. I think it's soft, but I don't think they'd have overturned it.
It's like the most minimalist handball penalty you'll ever see because the cross comes in from Williams and his hand does go up, but it's not in an unnatural position.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
But it still hits it, and his arm is raised, so it's sort of. I don't know. It's inconclusive for me. I think maybe in the Premier League that might get turned over. Maybe. Yeah. But maybe I'm going off when we were in the Premier League last season when the rules have slightly changed and whatever from this season. So I can't answer that question. I have no idea, really.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see next season when things like this will happen because obviously they do across a 38-game season. Joe, any more on QPR? Because... let's talk about Marco Silva has one of the best touches of football I've ever seen, and then of course they're for the second time, isn't it, in a QPR Fulham game, their assistant manager gets a little bit argy-bargy and gets himself sent off. Very funny.
It is always the QPR assistant manager. It's always at Loftus Road. It's always sunny, and it's always at the very end of the second half where everyone loses their heads. Such a weird situation. I can't believe all the Fulham coaches just escaped anything. They're all just sat down, like high-fiving each other and stuff. And we had, I think, Warburton booked and Eustace sent off, which was quite funny. Just a bit of a weird situation, really. But pleased with how we saw the game out. I mean, I think we'd have seen it out at 1-0, if I'm being honest. Maybe it would have been slightly harder with Charlie Austin's hair blinding everyone, but
For a good cause, though.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong, for a great cause. And Charlie Austin, I actually think, is a good person.
He's a good bloke.
But I didn't like what he did to Mitrovic before that penalty. I feel like you don't do that. The whispering in the ear. I feel like striker to striker. I feel like the goalkeeper's the only person that's got the right to try and get in someone's head. Maybe that's me being stupid.
You're right.
With him up front, they would have caused us more problems. I don't think he's at his peak anymore by any stretch of the imagination. I thought he was very poor in the reverse fixture. But, two up front is very different to defend against, and they might have thrown more at us if the game wasn't basically dead on 78 minutes. But professional, again, the way we saw it out, very happy with it. And on to Middlesbrough.
Yeah, and really good to get a clean sheet as well, given the last couple of games. The Barnsley penalty. And there we go. Barnsley penalty was soft.
Yeah.
That we conceded.
That's
what
true.
Goes around comes around in this league. So maybe it's a bit of delayed karma, football
Justice,
karma.
Yeah.
Worth noting, on Saturday night, I sort of was like, what on earth is going on when Warburton to be sacked rumours started to flood in. Nothing's happened. QPR were tweeting quite regularly yesterday. I was checking their tweets, and normally it's radio silence when they're about to make a big decision like that. I don't think there's anything in that. I mean, the big Daily Mail were on it, and TalkSport apparently were on it, but we'll have to see. I think it'd be a shocking decision. Be funny, but it'd be shocking.
Yeah, I think it would be poor. I do think it is poor, and partly on him, the way they have self-destructed. They were third not long ago. They can still make the playoffs. I just think it's a bit of a long shot with their fixture list, if I'm being honest. I think they've got some tough games left. But I do think it would be a poor decision to sack him now. Yeah. I think if I'm in QPR's position, reevaluate at the end of the season. Is there anyone better around that you could get that you think would take you to the next level? If there's not, then I think you've got to stick with him.
Well, Daniel Farke was the cry from the QPR fans.
Interesting one.
But they were very against it. Let's just look at QPR. They've got a game in hand over Blackburn, who sits sixth, and they're 3 points behind Blackburn. Let's have a look at the Championship. So we already knew we can't go up at Borough on Friday night because Huddersfield beat Hull. So they're currently third. Bournemouth, of course, got those 3 games in hand over Huddersfield. They've got one game in hand over us, and of course we play, and they also play midweek as well. So we'll still have that situation come Saturday, and then they'll play on Saturday. We play Sunday. So so Luton in 4th, Middlesbrough in 5th. Middlesbrough have a good win over Peterborough 4-0. Peterborough were very, very poor. They're going down, given the Derby result as well. Nottingham Forest beating Blackpool 4-1. This was a big old statement in the early kickoff. And then Sheffield United, I don't know what to make of them now. I think, Sheffield United, they're so dangerous, and they go and lose to 1-0 to Stoke, a Stoke team who are going absolutely nowhere. Yeah. And their season's done. There was a poor performance from them. They only had the one real big chance. Did Sheffield United, I managed to see on the highlights. Millwall drawing with Luton, and then West Brom losing to Birmingham, and I think that puts to bed any West Brom chance of the playoffs, Joe. Tell me what stood out to you over the Championship weekend, what excited you, and what surprised you.
One thing I thought was interesting was Luton have gone from being the team chasing to the team being chased, and immediately dropped 2 points at home. Only just got that point as well. And I think that's a big mentality thing. Millwall are no mugs. They've had a good second half of the season, very strong. They had a run where they went so many games without conceding a goal. Luton at home in 3rd, trying to solidify in the playoffs. That's one you're looking to for 3 points. Blackburn blew it again. 99th minute equaliser from Coventry.
Unbelievable.
But I think the big one for me was that Forest result. You saw that early doors, the way that they brushed aside Blackpool reminded me a lot of how we went to Forest earlier in the season when the game wasn't that different in terms of the play between us and Forest. It was quite an even game in terms of shots, in terms of possession. But the clinical nature of them, it was a team on fire where you just knew it was going to go in every time they went forward. And, I've seen some Forest fans saying they can still get second. I mean, if it's us in first, I'd be all for that. But I think that's quite a big gap to plunge at this stage of the season.
11 points off, no way.
11 points off. Bournemouth's run in is tough. Our run in's tough. Forest have still got to go to Bournemouth and us. So if they can get positive results in those, maybe. But I don't think it's going to happen. And here's the other big takeaway from the weekend. I'm on Cottage Analytica's tweets again. And
Brilliant.
Again, I highly recommend going on them. An update on when the earliest we can go up is after you rightly said that it's not Borough. So the earliest possible promotion now is the 10th of April, which is the day we play Coventry.
Sunday.
Yes, Sunday. So effectively, what would need to happen before then? Forest would need to lose to Coventry and Birmingham. And if I'm being completely honest, the way that is at the moment, it's looking a bit unlikely. Fulham would need to beat Borough. And then on the 10th, if we were to beat Coventry and other results elsewhere went our way as well, then we would be confirmed as up. Huddersfield Luton is the day later on the 11th.
Monday.
Yeah. So we could get promoted before then. It is possible. It mainly hinges on Forest. And if I'm being completely honest, the way they're playing and the way Birmingham and Coventry are playing, nothing special. I don't see them losing either of those games, let alone both. So let's wait and see what happens. But what I would say is get your tickets for Derby and Preston. I feel like some point around then, that will be the when rather than if moment that we are confirmed as up.
I think we're just all banking, like we said last week, on us being inside a ground watching Fulham when we are up, not sat at home. Because no one's going to be like, oh, let's all go down to the cottage and celebrate, because everyone's going to be too far away. Whereas when we watched the playoff final, at least people were in the vicinity of Fulham and Putney, so they could make that journey. I mean, if someone said, everyone's going down, let's go down, we'll meet in an hour, I'll probably all be for it. But then again, you get to the ground, what you could actually do, just stand out drinking and then go home. I mean, at least with the Brentford game, it sort of worked. I apologise to my friend Jason. He sent me something to say on the Jack and Joe show, and I just completely forgot. So here we go. Jason is a friend of Fulhamish's. He came over for like the West Brom game, the Barnsley game, the Blackburn game. And he's conducting some sort of research he needs for a work project. He said to me, a friend of the show and ardent Fulham supporter, Jason, will be conducting online interviews with people from the London area in order to compare conversational tokens with the Southern vernacular, I'm sure that's the word, English of the US. If you're interested in helping him with the linguistics research project, please contact him via Twitter or Instagram at Fulham Jason, or if you want just to talk about Fulham. So that's something I'm going to be participating in the next couple of weeks. Really nice guy, Jason, absolute hoot of a man, and was a pleasure to meet him when he was here. Let's move on to Middlesbrough. Before I do that, massive respect tonight for Wayne Rooney. He's going on Monday Night Football, and given all that's going on at Derby right now, for him just to sit with Jamie Carragher and Dave Jones and talk football, Crystal Palace versus Everton, Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, massive respect. Absolutely love the guy, and they beat Preston the weekend. They've got still an uphill task, given that Reading got a point, but I really do think that Derby could do it. Hopefully, we can confirm promotion at Derby, because some of the old school fans would love that, given the history. But if it isn't to be, I hope Derby can at least, get out of it, because I really do admire Rooney's work, and obviously the points deduction that could hit them next season as well if they're in League One. It's a nightmare. It's unthinkable for fans, obviously, and my heart goes out to them. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Borough, because a very, very good friend of mine, I think I mentioned it before, very good friend of mine is very good friends with Isaiah Jones, who's absolutely ripping it up this season. And it's unbelievable to see through like his eyes and my friend's eyes, like how that progress is being perceived by others. They went to watch him against Manchester United in the FA Cup when, of course, they won. And he was fantastic. I mean, he was playing against Ronaldo. It's a fairy tale story for Isaiah Jones. I couldn't be more happy for him. and he's got a big, big future ahead of him. Joe, how do you see this one going? Wednesday night, Borough away. Fair play if you're making the trip. I am going via Leicester with some friends. It's going to be great. But how do you see this one going? Chris Wilder, tough team. They won 4-0 at the weekend as well.
Really tough. And the fact it's at the Riverside, even tougher. I was just looking then just to check what I think I already knew. But it is true that the second game under Chris Wilder was Middlesbrough 1, Preston 2 in November. Preston had literally 2 shots on target and turned it around right at the end. Borough dominated the game. Since then, they haven't lost at home again under Wilder, other than in the FA Cup against Chelsea the other day. So in the league, everyone that's come there, I know they played against some tough teams. They played against Bournemouth, they played against Forest, they have played some decent sides. So it's going to be a tough game. And it's one of those where I think they'll be really up for it. They won 4-0 on Saturday at Peterborough, who are quite poor, but they had to go there and do the job. And they did it. Their away form's been poor, Middlesbrough, so that was a big turning point for them. Chris Wilder was a manager that was rumoured with the Fulham job. We don't know if there was ever anything to it. I do think he's a good manager, and I think he's one that is probably a manager that is Premier League quality in terms of his thinking and the way he sets up his teams. And you've seen that with how he's transformed Middlesbrough under Warnock, who were, you remember from day one of the season, with that squad, so uninspiring, no intent to go forward, very fortunate to get a draw after just a strike and run of individual brilliance. And I remember some Middlesbrough fans on the way home, I was coming out of the ground, were complaining. They were saying, I'd much rather play like Fulham. I'd much rather watch that every week than Warnock. I think someone else could get more out of this team. And Chris Wilder's done that. So really tough game. And I'm interested to see the team news and if we will change anything up. Would you change anything from the team that played against QPR?
I think purely based on the fact that Robinson will have a bit more fresh legs, I would start him, which is harsh on Brian. I feel like Brian should start and should play his part, given he played such a fantastic game on Saturday. But I know with like the way in which Middlesbrough play with their wing backs, you sort of need someone to counteract that, and Robinson's pace could do a job. And then in the midfield, Seri played his part. TC looked knackered by the end of the game against QPR. So maybe I'd start John Mikel Seri with Harrison Reed and Fabio in the 10. And then bring in Cabano for Bobby D called over Reed. It was good to see that Cabano got off the bench. That's nothing harsh on Bobby Reed. I feel actually that chance he had when he went clean through should have squared it to Mitrovic. He was absolutely in acres of space, but it's been and gone. We've got the 3 points. Doesn't matter. I feel like I need to take more of a chance on Bobby D called over Reed, but Cabano's quality can't be ignored. And of course, he played there last season at Middlesbrough, so it'd be nice to see him on the pitch. And apart from that, I don't think I'd change anything, Joe. What about you?
Yeah, I think the one guaranteed change for me would be Cabano. As you say, I feel more confident when he starts. And I feel more confident in Bobby, to be fair, when he comes off the bench, actually. I just feel like that's when he offers more rather than as a starter. Midfield one's the toughest one for me. I feel like if Kearney's rested enough, I'd start him again. I thought he was very good in the first half in particular. He did tire quickly in the second half, so wouldn't surprise me if that was a change. If there was a change, like you, I would go Seri, but if Kearney's okay, I'd stick with him. And then the left-back position, I guess, is the only one, as you said. I would stick with Brian purely because I feel like he did everything that was asked of him. Don't change it. I don't think Brian will start on Wednesday. I'm in the same position as you. I think it will be Robinson. I don't think that's the worst news in the world. I think that Robinson, as you say, the way that they attack down their wings, we need someone that's going to push them back. And I think Robinson would do that more than Brian. Equally, you can look at it the other way. Who's more defensively sound? I think Joe Bryan is. That's up for debate. Really interested because it's a short turnaround. It's a 3-game week. It's another huge game. And I think anything we can get there is a positive result. I don't think a draw would be the end of the world in this one. I want to go and win every game. But Middlesbrough at the Riverside, I would say it's probably our toughest game of the season yet, other than the obvious Bournemouth clash. other than that, I think this is the toughest test that we'll have. So let's see if we can do it.
Balogun, Connolly, Watmore, their forward players are dangerous and they get goals. If he makes 2 more appearances against Coventry, Tim Ream reaches 250 Fulham appearances. And I have to say, Joe, I know we haven't talked about him much this season, but he's been brilliant this season. And he was brilliant on Saturday. So good.
Yeah.
What a player. I feel like, obviously, we did the podcast with him earlier in the season. We haven't talked about him enough on the Jack and Joe show.
No, I think you're
That's
right.
bad.
I think,
so good.
As it stands, Mitrovic, player of the season, for obvious reasons, unbelievable goal scoring record. Tim Ream, for me, close second. He started every single league game. The only minutes he's missed was when he came off against Hull, injured, at about 30-minute mark, something like that. I would say, I'm a huge Tosin fan, and I think that Tosin is Premier League quality. I've come on here and I've said, oh yeah, Tim Ream's probably not good enough for the Premier League. Tim Ream's been better than Tosin this season for me, quite comfortably. And Tosin's been good. But Tim Ream, I think he was fantastic again on Saturday. He was one of our better performers against West Brom. He was good against Barnsley. Even when the team level seems to drop off, I feel like he's always performing to a very high level, and long may it continue. At the start of the season, I think we both spoke and thought we didn't know who was going to partner Tosin. We didn't know if he'd go with Mawson or Hector, or if he'd stick with Ream or bring someone new in. I think we've all seen that he was right to stick with Ream.
Talking of Mawson, out on the lash or the piss, with some Fulham fans post QPR. I'm not sure what to read into that in terms of hasn't started a game in a while, hasn't got in the squad in a while. I feel very sorry for him, the way in which his career has sort of fallen off. We're running out of time, Joe. What's your score prediction for Middlesbrough?
I think this is going to be a really tough game. And I'm going to go for us to sneak it.
Ooh.
I'm nervous in saying it. I think we're going to win this one 2-1. But would not be surprised if this was a draw.
Yeah, I'm going 1-1.
Yeah.
And Isaiah Jones to score, of course.
Oh, yeah.
If we do beat Borough, where on earth are we going to be Thursday?
I think we'll have to be live. I think that is the only possible scenario. And it's live. Got to be.
What I'd hope to do is, I think I'm home from, I have to go back from Leicester. I think I'm home at about 2:00. I'd like to go live around 7 before West Ham play Lyon, because that's a huge game. Obviously, Rangers play Braga. They lost yesterday, so to Celtic, which was very disappointing. So not as much interest in that one as I might have had if they'd have beaten Celtic. But let's leave it there. We've got things to do. I am buzzing for NTT 20 to review the weekend's football. That would be fantastic. And Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure today, and we'll speak on Thursday. If not live, we'll speak again.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully see you guys on Thursday. If you're going to Borough, have a fantastic time. If you're watching it at home, like I'm going to have to, then enjoy it. The good times keep coming. Another win against QPR. It's such a good time to be a Fulham fan, and it's when, not if. It's when, not if. I will stand by that until it is announced. So fingers crossed we get that win. Yeah,
this time next week we could be up. It could be done. We could have already gone live on Sunday night. Although there is the half moon thing, so maybe we might leave it for Monday. Who knows? Yeah. We'll speak with Sammy about it. We should probably speak about this sort of stuff off air. Didn't even mention the fact that Mitrovic got 37 goals. I mean, that's something we can get into another time.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Joe, enjoy the ride. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching.
Good vibes on Fulhamish channel. We want to hit 5,000 subscribers before the start of next season. We want to go big for next season because it's Premier League and fans are back. And me and you have some big old plans to make things very special for people watching. Thank you so much for the support this season. It's been unbelievable. It's been a hell of a season. One of the best I've ever experienced.
You know what? I think Jack, I think we need to give a quick shout out to Wayne, who always comments on the videos and just say, we appreciate the support. Like every single week, we look forward to reading your comments. So thank you. Really love the support. It helps the algorithm when you like the video and you share it. And we're so grateful for the opportunity that we've been given to make videos and just talk Fulham. And it's just so fun, especially when things are going very well. We'll see you up in Borough.
Everyone take care of themselves. And come on, Fulham.